Hey everyone! You're listening to Sarika Singh on Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips, your podcast channel for effective communication. On this podcast, I talk to you about becoming an effective communicator in life, be it relationships, branding communication, creative writing skills, and more. I share insights on how to speak, when to speak, tips to avoid and handle those goof ups, how to pitch to clients, how to break the ice and start conversations, and everything around this topic that walks through my mind. This episode begins. Do you know approximately how many average words we speak in a minute? 125 to 150. Now, guess how many words our sharp human mind can process in a minute? It's a whopping 400 words. Amazing, isn't it? Now, this gap between 150 and 400 causes a lot of problems. The problem is that we want to bridge this gap. But how do we bridge this gap? How do we fill this gap? Pauses? Yes, of course. But other than pauses, there's something more. I'll come to that in a bit. English is like totally cool to learn, you know? How's the statement? English is like totally cool to learn, you know? Now subtract the words like, totally, and you know from the sentence. What you're left with is a perfectly understandable, perfectly normal English sentence, which is English is cool to learn. Now the words we removed are called filler words. The ones that we fill in the sentence when we're speaking. These words give us time to think. So today, we're going to be talking about these filler words. Whether they're good, whether they're okay to use, whether they're bad, how they came about, why they exist, and how to change your habit around them. Like most leaders, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is a great orator. He connects with people beautifully. Now imagine, what if Modi ji in his famous Man Ki Baat, he sounded like the following. Hear me out. And so, my fellow Indians, think like, you know, Mr. Kennedy, I want to ask you all, like, not what your country, your country can do for you, but like ask what, you can do for your country. Suppose he spoke like that. What would your reaction be? Do you think the audience, the people, the masses would engage with him? Of course not, right? But because he's such a wonderful orator, he doesn't speak like that. He doesn't need the filler words. Someone said, fillers are essentially our brains forcing our mouths to stop talking so that we can think for a moment. Only few people like Barack Obama, JFK, Martin Luther King, Modi ji, and the like, they're blessed with the gift of gab, and they can speak confidently and effortlessly and fearlessly without hesitation. For the rest of us, filler words come to the rescue in most of our conversations. It's almost like wearing a kaftan dress, the loose kaftan dress to hide those love handles because you've been eating those extra servings of desi ghee paranthas and dal makhni and cheeseburgers and loaded fries. So you use filler words to hide certain things. Filler words, interestingly, have some very interesting names. Some call them filled pauses, hesitation markers, discourse markers. Linguists call them vocal disfluencies. Ordinary people call them crutch words. While they fill, they don't really add any meaning to a sentence. If you remove the filler words from a sentence, your sentence is going to mean pretty much the same. For example, when you can't think of a word, you might say, but that doesn't change the meaning of your sentence, does it? Now the $1,000,000 question. Are these filler words, these verbal riffraff, really bad? Do they make sense? Should they be there? Should they not be there? Well, I think most of us, we get flustered while speaking. Whether we're distracted or we're nervous or we're not sure what to say next, we bank on filler words to cover for us. Sometimes they're really cool because I'll give you an example. Sometimes if someone has invited you to their house and you want to say no, but because you can't really say no, it looks rude. On the contrary, if you say something like, so I'd just like to say, you know what, I'll drop by another time. The use of fillers like, well, sorry, they make the whole conversation so much polite, so much respectful. So are they really bad? Am I really advocating them? I'll come to that in a while. Imagine giving a presentation and sounding like this. We have to take a look at, the cost sheet sooner than later. And if we're going to purchase the new computers because, it's like a really, really big decision that we basically is going to, impact the whole budget. So I think we should call for the meeting and that's it. If you were going to deliver something like this in a presentation, that's what I tell all my students in my presentation skills class. I'm sure someone will be playing Candy Crush on the phone, if not yawning. The others would be busy texting from under the tables. Trust me, no one's listening to you. And some would even trot out for an excuse me, pee break, never to return. So you don't want to sound like that. You don't want to give a presentation like that. You don't want the verbal riffraff. You don't want the filler words when you're giving a presentation. But does that make them really bad? We'll understand this a bit more once we understand why we started using filler words. Is it only just to fill the gap? Or there's something more than that? Let's understand it a bit more in detail. Imagine for a minute that memories in your brain are boxed in a massive closet with years and years and years of memories, somewhere to the far north of your eyebrows. Now, part of this closet is organized, very well organized. Each file is named, each memory is tagged, well indexed. But a huge section of this closet has randomly filed memories. No indexing, no names, it's just there. Therefore, when we are speaking and we're trying to recall all these files into our conversation, we find that some of these memory files are super easy to find. But there are some which are so hard to access that sometimes we need pauses, we need time to think and access those files. And when we need time, what happens? Out pops the filler word. So, some of us use filler words more than the others. I believe there's a possible explanation to this. Let's call this group of people as Group A for clarity. Now, Group A people, I believe, when they were little kids, they were conditioned to reply to questions immediately. Hesitating before answering was seen as a sign of disrespect. No, parents or teachers would say. The minute I ask you a question, you should immediately rattle off the answer. Otherwise, there'll be negative consequences. So, poor child, out of fear, immediately started, rattling off the answer. As they grew up, they were accustomed to the idea of replying immediately when spoken to. So whether or not they know the answer to something, they will immediately start the answer. And in the middle, they'll have those pauses. They'll have those ums and ahs and, and so and like. So probably the ones, amongst us who are using more of uhs and ums and like are Group A folks. Interestingly, I asked a group of teenagers why they use the filler words so much. They had a very cool answer. Hear the answer. So their answer went like, okay, so we find it, like cool to use them. Whatever. Really? What an answer. Their answer only meant they're cool. but they used so many of these filler words to say it's cool. Another way, I think, why some of us use filler words is because we believe that these words will make us sound more natural, sound more real, especially when giving speeches, connecting with the masses, connecting with large audiences. So I'm going to use, whatever. So a lot more in this podcast. On a serious note, it is actually very, very difficult to stand up and speak in a world where everyone is talking. No one has time to listen. Everybody wants to say their own story. When we present, we feel tremendous pressure, as if we are in a deep ocean and water's exerting pressure on us from all sides, trying to squeeze our body. And then a sudden savior, filler words. They give us speakers time to pause and think. In those moments when we're not sure what to say next or we're thinking about it, filler words become your natural response to the uncertainty. They allow us speakers some thinking time to hold the floor. So they're not really that bad. Just imagine a person who's giving a speech in front of a large audience. Suppose his first words that come out of his mouth are, hi. What's your reaction? If you hear, hi. That's it. That's all it takes to let verbal fillers affect your speech. But I guess with each filler, the audience becomes more and more unclear, the speaker more and more nervous, and by the end of it, both sides are thankful it's over. In fact, mostly 3 to 5% of speeches have non-content words. Really. So if you're giving a presentation and someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, I would recommend just pause. Then once you have a good answer, start talking. But don't start with, Rather, if you need a slight filler, say, that's a great question. This pause will let your audience know you're taking time to seriously consider what they've asked. Instead of word vomiting the first thing that comes to your mind, you're giving the best answer after giving it some deep thought. Expressions like, yeah, are examples of back channeling. So is giving a backstory. So when you're trying to give a backgrounder or a story, what you're going to say next, use so. But don't use it too much. Funnily and contrary to this, children see ms and ers as signs that they're going to learn something new. So they pay closer attention. I don't recommend that parents do it on purpose, but it's not going to hurt. Give it a try. Interestingly, in one of my classes, one of my students asked me, so do you use filler words? Do I use filler words? Of course, all the time. A well-placed so well is actually an effective tool to break into a conversation, especially in the middle of a rambling colleague's filler words. I just make sure I'm not cutting someone off mid-sentence, but yes, I do use a lot of filler words. My personal pet peeve is the hedge word, People who think, at least thrice in each sentence makes their meaning clear. Oh, it's too much. It's something along the lines, if we do that way, it's like it would be better, strategy. Doesn't make sense. I didn't even understand what this person was saying. I have once had a professor who called filler words as mouth worms or verbal tics. She was so anti-filler words. Like the commonly used earworm, that tune sometimes you hear in the morning, you hear a music or a tune or a song and it gets stuck in your mind but you can't get rid of it. It's called an earworm. So mouthworm is a phrase that gets stuck in your speech and you don't seem to be able to get rid of it. So my teacher used to call them mouthworms. 1 or 2 verbal fillers every 3 minutes, not a big deal. But 1 or 2 every minute, they can seriously undercut your credibility. It doesn't matter how elegantly your PowerPoint presentation follows, or how artfully you can field difficult questions, or how perfectly balanced your mix of statistics and stories is. If you're filling your delivery with words like like, right, so, you're wasting valuable airtime, undermining your professional credibility, and giving your listeners multiple opportunities to tune out. If you don't nip it in the bud, it becomes a permanent verbal tick. So like I said previously, if you're giving a presentation and someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, what do? I would recommend just pause. Speaking of pauses, there are short pauses of about 0.2 seconds, there are medium pauses about 0.6 seconds, and there are long pauses which are longer than a second. If you closely observe the speeches of some of the greatest public speakers in the world, you'll notice that they often have pauses which last 2 to 3 seconds, sometimes even longer. So this shows that pauses are a great part of great speeches. So don't fret, just pause at the right time. But pause only when the time is right. So think about it. While the greatest speakers use pauses frequently, an average speaker pauses only about 3.5 times a minute. It's nowhere near enough. Repetitive use of words like I think, I mean, I guess. If you use it too much, the other person will think that you're unsure. If you use too many fillers, your audience will fizzle out. The attention from your speech will be gone. So prefer to pause the filler instead of not taking the pause. Start pausing when the filler word reaches your lips or is just about to pop out. While filler words, they can be a great way to give yourself a moment, or to recollect your thoughts, or to catch your breath, or to become more relatable to your audience, or to emphasize what you're saying. But. When you use it excessively, they become crutch words and they take away from your message and they hurt your credibility like really bad. Thinking about it, are the filler words the worst delivery habit in the world? No, but they're not great. And keep in mind, using verbal fillers doesn't make you sound more real, doesn't make you any more authentic. If people notice your verbal fillers disproportionately, if you're using it too much, they might not hear your idea, which makes it difficult to inspire others to act. So it's a good idea to work at paring them back as best as you can. In my public speaking and presentation skill classes, I trained students to deliberately slow down, to pause when it calls for it. There's no need to rush down the thought process. The clarity in speech occurs when you slow down a bit. But how do you trim fillers out of your delivery? I'm going to share a couple of tricks which you can follow. The first one, you identify, you have to diagnose the disease. So diagnosis is most important. You have to identify which fillers do you speak most often. Write them down, note them down. Find alternative phrases to replace them. These days we all have smartphones, so one easy way to do it is film yourself or record yourself when you speak. Speak verbatim and see how you're using the words, which words you're using more frequently and why, and what you can replace it with. Practice with your friends or your family or just alone. It doesn't even matter. But practice. Don't undermine the power of practicing. The best rule of thumb is to always allow for a generously nice, solid pause after being asked a hard question. Think. Of course you need to think, but do so quietly, not with the ums and the ahs. Don't do it. Don't let your face show that you're rattled. But don't let verbal fillers tell your listeners you're rattled either. So just be quiet for a moment. Reduce the fillers intentionally. But this comes with practice. I embed a lot of vocabulary, in my creative writing classes. I keep telling my students, polish your vocabulary. Get familiar with newer words. Apply them in real time. Read more, add more terms to your vocab, and make an effort to use them throughout the daily conversations. My favorite way to learn is to listen to other people talk. Listen to your favorite podcaster or YouTuber or commentator or narrator. My favorite one is David Attenborough. I love his narrations on Discovery. Like with any other habit, the key to quitting or changing is to make a commitment to yourself to drop the habit. Anytime you find one of these words almost coming out of your mouth, just stop. Seal your lips. Don't say anything. Just shut yourself up. Shut up. Thank you for listening to this episode of Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips with Sarika Singh. If you want to be notified of upcoming episodes, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow the podcast. I'll be back to share more stories, more life experiences, and more communication tips every Friday. If you want to reach me or connect with me, just put your comments in the comment box below or mail me at info@sarikasingh.in. I know you're going to rate and review this podcast, so a big thank you in advance. Stay tuned and think about what we talked today.